Pablo Escobar, before he became one of the most feared criminals in history. Born in 1949, he grew up in Colombia. By the early 1970s, he entered the criminal world. Then, a new opportunity appeared: cocaine. 1976. Birth of the Medellin Cartel. Demand exploded. Millions became hundreds of millions. By the 1980s, he was one of the richest men on earth. But wealth brought enemies. 1984. The war begins. Colombia declared war on Escobar. Bombings, assassinations, fear. Yet, despite all this pressure, Escobar survived. Every raid seemed to fail. 1989. The world's most wanted man. Thousands hunted him. Still, he escaped. 1991. Escobar surrenders. Under his own conditions. La Catedral. It was barely a prison. 1992. The escape. The largest manhunt in Colombian history began, yet he kept surviving. December 2nd, 1993. Investigators intercepted a phone call. Security forces moved quickly. Escobar attempted to flee. The world's most famous drug lord had finally run out of places to hide. Amado Carrillo Fuentes. While Escobar dominated headlines, another trafficker was quietly building an empire. His name was Amado Carrillo Fuentes. And unlike many cartel leaders, his greatest weapon wasn't violence, it was transportation. 1980s. Building an air empire. Plane after plane carried shipments. Authorities struggled to track him. The network expanded, and so did the profits. Early 1990s, becoming the Lord of the Skies. He controlled one of the most sophisticated operations in the world. The scale was enormous. He earned the nickname the Lord of the Skies. While rivals fought wars, Amado avoided attention, and because of that, he survived. For years, he stayed ahead of investigators. Routes changed. Methods evolved. Associates were replaced. Again and again, authorities came close. Again and again, he escaped. His survival came from strategy, but pressure continued building. He realized the problem wasn't his network, it was his face. Too many people knew what he looked like. In 1997, he made a desperate decision. He would disappear completely. Plastic surgery would change his appearance. A new face, a new identity, a new life. At least that was the plan. July 4th, 1997. He entered an operating room. The procedure was supposed to save him. Instead, complications occurred. The operation failed. The Lord of the Skies never left the hospital alive. The man who survived years of pursuit died while trying to become someone else. His greatest escape plan became his final mistake. Arturo Beltrán, Leyva. Arturo Beltrán. Leyva built a reputation for ruthlessness. By the late 2000s, he had become one of Mexico's most feared cartel leaders. Government forces launched operation after operation against his organization, yet he repeatedly escaped. Safe houses, lookouts, loyal gunmen. Time after time, authorities arrived too late. But in December 2009, everything changed. Mexican Navy intelligence finally located him. Elite forces moved in. Most criminals would have attempted surrender. Arturo chose a different path. A fierce firefight erupted. Bullets tore through the building. For hours, the battle continued. When the shooting stopped, Arturo Beltrán Leyva was dead. The man who survived countless raids met his end fighting to the very last moment. El Chapo, the man who escaped the impossible. By the time Pablo Escobar was dead and Amado Carrillo Fuentes was gone, another figure was already rising through the shadows. His name was Joaquín Guzmán, but the world would know him by another name, El Chapo, the short one. At first glance, there was nothing extraordinary about him. He wasn't charismatic like Escobar. He wasn't mysterious like Amado. Yet he would become one of the most famous cartel bosses in history, not because of how much money he made, but because of how many times he escaped. 1980s. Learning the business. He watched. He learned. He waited. 1993. First arrest. He was extradited and sent to prison. The government believed the threat had been contained. They were wrong. January 19th, 2001. El Chapo disappeared. The prison remained. The guards remained. But El Chapo was gone. The manhunt began immediately. And once again, he survived. For 13 years, El Chapo remained free. Governments hunted him. Yet every raid arrived too late. His legend grew. 2014. Capture. It looked like the story was over. It wasn't. July 11th, 2015. He entered the shower area. Then he vanished. Beneath the prison, workers had built an elaborate tunnel. The impossible had happened again. January 8th, 2016. Authorities located him. He fled through tunnels and drainage systems, but this time, luck abandoned him. Authorities captured him again. There would be no third escape. 2019. Life sentence. The man who escaped prisons, armies, and governments finally reached a wall he could not climb. Miguel Ángel Félix Gallardo, the Godfather, before there was El Chapo, before there was Amado, before many of the cartels that dominate headlines today. There was Miguel Ángel Félix Gallardo, the man many would later call the Godfather. 1970s, the beginning. He began building connections across Mexico. Unlike many cartel leaders who relied heavily on violence, Gallardo understood something more powerful: organization. He connected traffickers, built alliances, created networks, and slowly assembled an empire. By the early 1980s, Gallardo had become one of the most influential figures in the drug trade. His organization controlled major routes. His influence stretched across vast territories, and for years he survived. Everything changed in 1985. Investigations intensified, international attention increased, the pressure mounted. Then came 1989. Authorities finally moved against him. Gallardo was arrested. The Godfather had fallen, but even in prison, his influence continued. The empire he built did not disappear. It fractured. Pieces evolved into future cartels. Years became decades. Age caught up with him. The empire was gone. In 2025, Miguel Ángel Félix Gallardo died. Pablo Escobar survived a war against a nation. Amado Carrillo Fuentes survived years of pursuit from the sky. Arturo Beltrán Leyva survived relentless raids. El Chapo escaped prisons that should have been impossible to escape. Miguel Ángel Félix Gallardo built an empire that outlived his freedom. For years, each man appeared untouchable. Each escaped dangers that should have ended their story. But survival is never permanent. Eventually, every empire cracks, every hiding place is discovered, every escape route closes, and every legend reaches its final chapter. These men spent their lives outrunning danger. In the end, danger never stopped running after them.